So without any further delay, I'm so pleased to introduce our first speaker, Robin Gibson from DSI. Robin, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Karen. And to the Swedish Down Syndrome Association for inviting us here today. We're really looking forward to presenting and hopefully having some conversations with you all. I will share my screen and get started. So I've got to send it. You might need to make me a co-host again, Karen, or allow me to share a screen just because I left and came back. Okay, let's have a look. That seems to be sharing. Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. So welcome to an introduction to Down Syndrome International. It's a presentation by myself, Robin, Emma, and Pearl. If you'd like to introduce yourself in the chat, we'd love to know who's in the room. And I'm sure everyone else would like to know who's here. So please do feel free to say what your name is and if you're representing an organisation and where you are in the world. So the presentation is going to be split into three. I will do an introduction to Down Syndrome International. So explain what Down Syndrome International is and some of our work. Then Pearl will be doing a presentation on something called the Ambassador Committee, which is a group that Pearl is part of. And then we have a video recorded by my colleague Emma, and she's just made a presentation about her job at DSI. She works with me on the program team. So she's just, it's more of a kind of practical presentation about her work. So this is Emma. She's 43. She has Down syndrome, and she started working at Down Syndrome International in 2023, and she's a program officer. Then we have Pearl, who we're very lucky to have with us today, because Pearl's actually already done a presentation today in the United Nations in Geneva for the World Health Organization. Did you want to say a quick hello, Pearl?
Yeah.
You're on mute.
Yes. Hi. Yes. I just had recently a presentation at the UN, and it was the WHO, and I was live speaking in front of like the whole entire world. So so that was freaking cool. Yeah, about my health experience.
And Pearl has come straight from that presentation to come and do this with us. So we're very grateful to Pearl for coming and joining us.
Yeah.
And Pearl will tell us a lot more about her work in a moment.
Yes, will do.
And then my name's Robin. So I joined DSI in 2020. And I do lots of work on including people with Down syndrome in Down Syndrome International, and also helping other organisations to include people with Down syndrome in their work. And I've been doing it for around 10 years. I used to manage supported living services in the UK. So day-to-day support and helping people move into new homes and things like that. So about Down Syndrome International. So we are the global network of people with Down syndrome and their families. And our network includes people with Down syndrome, other disabilities, friends, family members, and professionals from around the world. And the people in our network tell us about what life is like for people with Down syndrome in different parts of the world. One of the main ways we do that is through a network of organisations. So the Swedish Down Syndrome Association is one of our member organisations. And we have 150 organisations, member organisations, working in 113 countries. So we have people all over the world, in every region of the world, and we speak to people in all these different places, and we find out what life is like for people with Down syndrome, and we work together on different projects. We have an ambassador committee, and this is a committee of people with Down syndrome. They guide our work and they give us feedback. We normally have around 20 people on the committee. I'm on the left-hand side of that photo, and then my colleague Nathan is on the right-hand side. And then the 4 people in the middle are ambassadors, so they're on the committee with Pearl. So we have Andrew Oswin there, he is from New Zealand. We have Charlotte Woodward from the US. We have Morgan Mays from Indonesia. And then that's Andrew Domahidi from Australia, who's got Nathan in a headlock. But yes, we have people, once again, representing all different regions of the world. And the Ambassador Committee is a very important part of our work, and they give us lots of advice and guidance. So we're very grateful for their time. The staff team, so there are 8 people in our staff team. Our office is based in Exmouth in England. So there's 6 people there. So all of our staff team is currently based in England, but we speak to people all around the world. I'm actually based in a city called Bristol, so I work remotely, partly from home, but everyone else goes into the office. And then we have a board of trustees. So Down Syndrome International is governed by a board of trustees. And this board is diverse. It includes people from all over the world. And we have lots of professional and lived experience in there. So we have the board is made up of people with Down syndrome and family members of people with Down syndrome. So it is an organisation of people with disabilities. And to tell you a little bit about our work, I'm going to explain some of our strategy. So we recently created a new strategy, and we did this with our membership network. We consulted with people all around the world, and we've written a strategy for Down Syndrome International. And it's a 10-year strategy. So we've given ourselves 10 years to work towards it. I can't cover the whole strategy because we don't have time, but what I did think I'd do is talk about some of our approaches. So some of the things we do to make change, and then explain some of our projects, so how we work towards those things. So first of all, we'll look at our purpose, why we do our work. So we want all people with Down syndrome around the world to be included in their communities. And our network works together to speak up and take action for human rights of people with Down syndrome. So together, all around the world, we speak up for the human rights of all people with Down syndrome around the world. And these are I think we have 5 approaches to making change. So these are the things that we need to do to make sure that people with Down syndrome's human rights are respected and that people can enjoy their human rights. So we develop and share evidence, stories, and examples of inclusion of people with Down syndrome. And examples of people with Down syndrome being included help make change happen. So we share examples of inclusion from all around the world. So we've got social media accounts, and we write reports, and we speak to people, and we do webinars like this. So we share examples of people being included. And this helps our network to speak up for the inclusion of people with Down syndrome. We empower people with Down syndrome and their families to speak up for their human rights. People with Down syndrome and their families know best what needs to change in their communities. So we help them to understand their human rights and have the power to speak up and take action. Yeah. We support Down syndrome organisations to become stronger and more inclusive. So that is quite often our membership organisations. People with Down syndrome and their families have a stronger voice when they work together with Down syndrome organisations. We support Down syndrome organisations to include everyone and be strong enough to improve the lives of people with Down syndrome. So some of the countries we work with have never had an organisation representing people with Down syndrome before. So we have worked with organisations from the very beginning, and they've been the first kind of advocacy organisation for people with Down syndrome. So it's very important that those organisations are strong, so that they know how they can improve the lives of people with Down syndrome. And a lot of that is hearing about what other organisations around the world have done. And we build and lead partnerships with important people, groups, and organisations. So as Pearl was saying, she's just been to the UN, and she spoke at an event organised by the World Health Organization. And we work with lots of UN agencies. We work with lots of large international charities and NGOs, and with lots of governments as well. So we speak to people all around the world. And we do that because we can make bigger changes to the world if we work together with other people, groups, and organizations. So as I said, the Down Syndrome International team is only 8 people, and many of our staff are actually part-time. So we need to work with people around the world to make a big impact. It's the only way that we can do it. And then the final thing we do is we coordinate advocacy for the human rights of persons with Down syndrome. So our network makes a bigger positive change if we all speak up for human rights together. We bring our network together to work on shared goals and shared messages. And what is our shared goal? So our shared goal is that people with Down syndrome and their families around the world have a say in all laws, policies, and other decisions that affect them. People with Down syndrome have the right to have a say in all decisions that affect them, including on laws and policies. Our goal is to make sure people with Down syndrome and their families around the world can do this. So that is a lot of the things that we aspire to do, that we're working towards. And then I'm just going to take a couple of minutes just to highlight some of the projects that we're currently working on, or recent things that we've done, which will show you how we're working towards some of those things. So we've recently had our World Down Syndrome Day at the United Nations headquarters. So every year we have a 2-day conference in New York. Actually, that's a lie. We normally have a 1-day conference in New York, but last year we had a 2-day conference, and that launched, we used that to launch a health equity campaign. We had lots of speakers, including self-advocates, the World Health Organization. We had people from governments from lots of different countries. The event is sponsored by what's called a mission. So they're kind of like the office that represents a country. The event is sponsored by Japan, by Poland, by Australia, by Brazil. And we have lots of different people coming from the world, around the world, and delivering presentations in the UN headquarters. And next year, the theme, well, actually it's this year, is improve our support systems. So this year we're talking about support systems around the world, and how they can be improved to support people with Down syndrome to be full and equal members of communities and of society. We had a World Down Syndrome Congress. So this was a very big event in Brisbane in Australia. There was over 1,000 people there from 45 countries. We had staff members, our board members and ambassadors attend. And there was 3 full days of presentations and workshops. And then there was also events every night. So we had a disco and a meal, and we went to the Australian an Australian government building and met some of the Australian government. And our next Congress is going to be in Argentina in 2027. So we have the World Down Syndrome Day conference, which is in New York every year. And there's also a slightly smaller event in Geneva every year. So that happens every year. And then the Congress it's a bit like our Olympics, where it happens every 3 or 4 years, and it's in a different country, and member organizations apply to run the Congress with us. So next year's in Argentina. So we're very excited for that. My colleague Nathan went to COSP, which is the Conference of State Parties. So this is an annual event which focuses on all disabilities and disability rights. And Nathan presented there about the impact of conflicts on people with Down syndrome in Cameroon, Ukraine, and Gaza. And he spoke to missions, and we also had a self-advocate called Michael there, who presented about employment. We recently launched a health equity campaign, and this has been a big project, big joint project with Humanity Inclusion. It involved a huge survey. So we've had 750 responses to the survey. There's been focus groups run in 6 countries, and we're currently working to analyze the data with the support from the London School of Economics, and they've done a really fantastic job. So we're very excited to see where that goes, and then we will be doing some shared advocacy and using that report to make changes with our member organisations. We have the Listen, Include, Respect guidelines. So these are guidelines that help organisations understand what they need to do to make sure people with intellectual disabilities can take part in their work and are included in decision making. They're on a website and they're free to use for anyone. And we do lots of work on Listen, Include, Respect because one of our big focuses is getting people with Down syndrome involved in the organisations that represent them. And this helps organisations to do that. So one of the things we've done is train 2 self-advocates. So there's Catherine and Joe there. They work for the Down Syndrome Association in the UK, and they've been trained as consultants. And they have just started to train the integrated care boards in the UK. So these are organisations that are commission the health and social care paid for by the government. So they are helping the integrated care boards to involve people with learning disabilities and intellectual disabilities in government policy and planning. I went with my colleague Tia. She's at the back. We went to Canada last week, so I'm still getting over the jet lag now. But we went to Canada last week and we trained 20 people on Listen, Include, Respect, including, I think there were 12 self-advocates with intellectual disabilities, learning disabilities, and Down syndrome, and then 8 staff members. So that was a 3-day training, and it was awesome. And then we do consultancy projects. So we get reference groups together, so groups of self-advocates, and we give feedback on work, we give feedback on tools, and we help organisations to build new things. They're some of the people we've worked with: UNPRPD, the Disability Reference Group, which is a big international reference group, and the International Disability and Development Consortium. So I'm nearly at the end of mine. I'm very aware that I've given lots of information, so I think this is my last slide. And we've just started 2 new network groups. So a self-advocacy network group and a health equity network group. And these are groups for members to share their experiences and ideas, to support each other and better understand each other's work and challenges. So we meet on a Zoom call every few months, and we're going to start really working on projects together and understanding self-advocacy and health equity. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking for a little bit and see if there's any questions. So if you have any questions about anything to do with Down Syndrome International, please do put them in a chat and I'll hopefully be able to answer them. So I'll just have a look at the chat.
Robin,
Go ahead.
You said that the people could also unmute themselves and ask the question live, did you? That's okay.
Absolutely, yeah. If anybody wanted to ask a question by asking a question, please go ahead. You don't need to put it in the chat.
Yeah, feel free. Maybe there will be more questions after Pearl's presentation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Together with Pearl's presentation.
Pearl looks ready. Are you ready to go, Pearl?
All right.
Shall I get your slides up ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty. Is that sharing the right screen?
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
No, I think we can see the notes. So I don't think it's the right screen.
How about now?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Better. Great.
So, hi, I am from Switzerland. To all of you, including our guests from Sweden and Finland and Norway and Denmark and Iceland and the Faroe Islands. My name is Pearl Luti. I have the pleasure of hosting this part of the presentation from Down Syndrome International. I will be talking about our DSI ambassadors. I belong to the DSI Ambassador Committee of People with Down Syndrome. There are 17 DSI ambassadors coming from all over the world and including Australasia and Asia, and of course Africa and America and United Kingdom and Middle East and Europe. Each ambassador comes from a different country and represents their organization on the DSI committee. I am working for DSI as an ambassador for Switzerland. In Switzerland, we speak 4 different languages: German plus Swiss German and French and Italian and the mountain language of Romansh. We have 3 main Down syndrome organizations: the Swiss French A21 and Swiss Italian A21 and Swiss German Insieme 21. I was nominated a couple of years ago to represent Switzerland for the Swiss German Down Syndrome Association Insieme 21. And we are based in Switzerland in Zurich. Insieme 21 supports members in German-speaking Switzerland with advice for new families, support for inclusion in schools, social and holiday opportunities for children and young people with Down syndrome, educational courses for families, specialist support and expert advice for young individual children. We also have a self-advocates group. Insieme 21 is committed to inclusion. This is a photo of some of our local self-advocate group in Switzerland at our last Insieme 21 annual general meeting, where we included and had the main role in the meeting. Our committee is made up for a range of ambassadors who work locally within their countries as well as contribute globally together with DSI. I would like to introduce the ambassadors. This is Halis from Turkey. This is Janet from Toronto, Canada. This is Chaika from the United Emirates. There is Carla from Peru. There is Charlotte from Kenya. There was Kate from the United Kingdom. Then we have Stuart from Scotland. And then we have our Kiwi boy, Andrew Oswin from New Zealand. Then we have got Fahim from Bangladesh. Then we have got Andrew Domahidi from Australia. Then we have got Cherie Bernard from South Africa. Then we have got Carlos from Mexico, Spanish speaking, and then there's me from Switzerland. Then there is Eileen from Ireland, and there's Morgan Mays from Indonesia. And then we have got also Charlotte from United States from America. Then we've got Mayasor from Nigeria. Our ambassador committee meets up monthly over Zoom, and we share ideas about different topics. Our role is to give a voice for our members with Down syndrome to make sure that the work of DSI is based on our needs and abilities and interests. We often have different projects to work together on. We also help make resources for DSI, such as videos and easy to read information, such as these slides, when possible, and we attend events and give presentations either virtually or live. Today, I was invited by DSI to represent our ambassadors for this webinar. In meetings, we catch up with each other at the beginning and then talk about a wide range of topics like inclusion and ideas for self-advocacy. As a group, there is a wide range of experience and knowledge, so we learn a lot from each other. We help the planning for DSI as an organization and also planning international conferences such as World Down Syndrome Days and World Down Syndrome Congresses. Now we're coming to the second last slide. I would recommend becoming involved with DSI. It has definitely made a difference in my life, and to be a self-advocate and part of the group of DSI ambassadors. But also to attend DSI workshops and conferences and other international events has opened my eyes to what is possible in the world for people with that extra chromosome just like me. I enjoy speaking up, and it's important that we can make ourselves heard and seen and find the best ways to make a difference for us and other people with Down syndrome in our world. This photo was taken at the World Down Syndrome Day in Geneva in the year of 2023, when I was invited to be the moderator of a session at the United Nations with Nathan from DSI. And now we're coming to the fun part and to the last webinar for mine. I enjoy being an advocate on a local as well as international level, and it's a privilege to be able to represent Switzerland and on the DSI Ambassador Committee. On behalf of the DSI Ambassador Group, thanks for listening today, and hopefully we'll see each other soon again.
That was a really good introduction to the Ambassador Committee. So thank you very much.
Yes.
So I've got a question from Eva. How do you solve language differences among the participants during the meetings, or do you all speak English? So do you want to answer that, Pearl?
Yeah. So, other people from the whole wide world, from the question from Emma, other people from other countries, they speak their homecoming language. Like if I say in Kenya, Swahili, or in New Zealand you speak English, or in Switzerland you speak Swiss German, and so on. Or you speak Arabic when you're from, I don't know, from Dubai or so on. Yeah.
So yeah, we do have people that speak that don't speak English in the group, and the way that that's managed is that our meetings always go at a good pace, so we never go too fast, and so all the ambassadors can have whichever kind of support they need. And sometimes that support is translation. So they have people that join the call with them, and we can either do translation through Zoom, where someone speaks over our voices, or sometimes people use a phone and call. So there are people that don't speak English in the group that do take part. I'll be honest that translation is one of the most difficult things that we have at DSI, because we work with 113 countries, and there's a lot of languages, and it's quite an expensive thing to get translators and stuff. So we have to rely on our member organizations often to provide translation. But yes, language is definitely not something that would stop someone being in the group. Did anyone else have any other questions about the Ambassador Committee?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I muted myself. Yeah, so I wonder, how do one become an ambassador for DSI?
Sure. So ambassadors are nominated by the member organizations. So if you wanted an ambassador from Sweden, then it would be down to the Swedish Down Syndrome Association to find and nominate someone that you think would like to do the role. The only real thing that we need people to have, the skill we need them to have, is really for them to want to be involved in the group and to want to speak up for people with Down syndrome. So yeah, that's it. But if you wanted to nominate someone, we'd be very happy to discuss that. This year we're having quite a large turnover of ambassadors. Lots of people are finishing their terms as ambassadors this year, so we will be recruiting more people. Unfortunately, the amount of ambassadors we can work with is kind of capped with how much capacity we have in the staff team. We would love to have an ambassador from every country, but unfortunately we don't currently have time. So, but we do have space for some more people to join this year.
Interesting, thank you. Are there any more questions? Doesn't seem like it. Should we move over to the third part of this webinar, maybe?
Absolutely. So the last bit is it's a presentation from my colleague Emma. She works with us 1 day a week, and I won't say too much because she'll explain. Emma did want to join us, but unfortunately, her working hours are at the complete opposite side of the day, so she wasn't able to join us today. But she has recorded this presentation. I have to make sure I share my sound with this one. Okay.
Emma's job.
You hear that okay?
My job as a program officer at DSI. I started working with DSI on the 7th of September 2023. My job is program officer. I help people with learning disabilities and Down syndrome around the world to give people a chance to speak and be heard. I work at the DSI office in the UK with Nathan, Anna, Russ, Robin, Ruth, Katie, and Andrew. I work very hard. I really enjoy my work. I am good at listening to people if they have problems or issues. If you have problems, I can help with the staff here. My job role is to be part of the Devon. My job role is to be part of the Down Syndrome International Program team. The team works on different projects, working on things like self-advocacy, human rights, and being inclusive. The team does things like making and delivering training, helping organisations be more inclusive, organising events and webinars, talking to member organisations, working with self-advocates to involve them in Down syndrome international work. Here are some examples of some of the work I do. I give back on the strategy. I looked at the words in the strategy and give my feedback. I looked at different kinds of photos of the strategy. I was giving feedback to make sure the right information was there. Recording a script for the strategy video. I love recording myself reading the script. I like my voice being heard to help people around the world. I speak at conferences for people learning disabilities. Get my voice and get other people involved. And I share the right information across the world. What it is like working at DSI. I come into work the same each week on a Thursday. I work for 4 hours. My work starts at 9:30 until 1:30 p.m. I catch a taxi and back from work. When I come in, I go up and sign my name in and say hello to everybody. I sit down at my desk and open up my computer. Then I have a look at it and I read if I have any letters or emails for people. Each time I go to work, I have a checklist. I read it to myself what I have been up to and what I am doing that day. When I have finished a task, I tick it off each time. I have a big computer screen. I can see much bigger writing and pictures. I can see what is going on. I think it's fantastic. I have my own book that I write things down that I need to say. I like having the earphones on my ears. I love doing the password on the computer. When I started, I found it difficult to scroll down and zoom in with my mouse. I learned how to use my mouse, and now I can scroll down and zoom in. I have this. It's like a ramp to put my feet on. I can relax my legs, then I am working. This stops them getting sore. I love my job because I work as part of the team. I am happy at work and I work hard at my job. I love everyone's company. I like knowing what different people do at work. on their computers. I wrote down what people do. Everything I don't understand, I ask, what do you mean? If it is a difficult word and I don't understand it, I ask them, can you explain it to me? I found it easy when tasks are cut down to smaller steps. It is easier for things to sink in, so I don't get worried about things. I like doing meetings because I found out information about what kind of issues they need help with, that I can help. I also like doing interviews. I like learning different things about people around the world and helping them to live independently. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
So a big thank you to Emma for recording the video for us. That brings us to the end of the presentation, so I'll pass back to Karen.
Yes, that was really interesting. So thank you, Emma and Robin and Pearl. Now, if there's any more questions, yes, let me see. There is actually is a question in the chat, so I can read it up loud, and Robin and Pearl, you'll answer. Yeah. So
Sure.
this is a question from Julia. My question might be a little boring, but I'm curious. Curious, yes. How is DSI work financially supported?
Sure. So various different ways. We are we get some funding through grants, so that might be through international grant funding, sometimes from governments or other large international organizations. We're a membership organization, but we are part of another membership organization that is made up of similar organizations called the International Disability Alliance. So they're a big international organization, and they sometimes point us in the right direction for some grant funding. We raise a good amount of money selling socks every year. So you might have seen the World Down Syndrome Day Lots of Socks campaign. So that brings us some income in. I mentioned in my first presentation that we had done some consultancy projects. So we do some paid for work through Listen, Include, Respect services. And we get paid a small amount for DSI's time, but we also make sure that self-advocates with Down syndrome are paid. And we get a small amount of money from our members. So we have a kind of tiered system for membership. Some members pay an annual fee, and other members that are very small in countries where their funding is very limited, they're supported by Down Syndrome International for no fee. So yeah, it's very varied. Quite often, a lot of the program work is funded through a grant that has a specific goal. and we can only really apply for funding that matches the DSI strategy. So there'll be a funding proposal come out. We'll see that some of our current work or work that we would like to do matches the goals of that grant funding, and then we'd apply for that. So yeah, lots of different ways.
Thank you, Robin. There's another question from Bengt. He starts by thanking for the interesting presentations. May I ask you, what do you believe are the most important steps in a general perspective an employer can take to create a truly inclusive workplace? Thank you in advance from Bengt.
Great, thank you for the question. I'll just check if Pearl wanted to come into that. So Pearl, the question is, how can an employer make their workplace inclusive, and how can they employ people with Down syndrome?
It's too difficult to say.
Don't need to answer, but if you've got anything you want to say, feel free.
Yeah, wait a second.
Just have a think.
Yeah.
I've asked Pearl because she does lots of different work and projects and all kinds of stuff. She's very busy, so she'll probably have some good ideas to share.
Interesting.
Yeah, just one moment. My mum is just studying up.
No worries. While Pearl's having a think, I'd suggest looking at other projects that have done it. There is a very successful project in the UK called WorkFit, and they offer people with Down syndrome support, but they also offer employers support. So it's all about kind of preparation, understanding what it means to employ someone with Down syndrome. Pearl's unmuted herself now, so I'll let Pearl. Are you ready, Pearl?
Yes. I have done lots of projects, yeah. With some other projects, like I had through a group called Let's Go 21. I'm also there as an ambassador.
Advocate.
Sorry, I'm an advocate there, actually, there. And we are discussing on the theme of living, like to live alone in our life or so. Like if I say that project or the next project what I do, I mean, I used to do that project like a theater project, and we needed to work every single day, every single morning. So yeah.
And what makes a good boss, Pearl?
What?
What makes a good boss if you're working?
Yeah.
What makes a good manager?
What?
Inclusive events.
Yes, inclusive events. Okay, I can explain what that is. I am always invited to go on events, and I sort of pseudo like work there, help there. Like if I say at a football VM, I was helping out, like flags I needed to give out. Yeah.
Support you to be included.
So we have lots of staff, and they help and they work.
Help you to be included.
Yes, to help me to be included. Yeah.
Good job.
And to be in a good job.
Having the right support in place for people and making sure the job that they have makes sense for them and that they have everything they need so they can do the job. Similar to most people, is everyone needs to kind of know what they're doing and have a job that's appropriate to their skills. But there's some really great projects that have worked on employment. I would really suggest looking at WorkFit, which is based in the UK, and they've worked with lots and lots of people. And I think once someone's been hired by an organisation, I think their kind of retention rate, so people staying in the job, is over 90%. So it's been very successful. And I mean, all the people with Down syndrome that we have at Down Syndrome International working with us make it a million times better, and helps us in so many ways. So
and what I also do is like doing arranging discos. I even organize parties, and yeah, that's what I do. It's mainly from events. Yeah.
Party planner.
Yeah. Yes. That's what I was gonna say. I even plan birthday parties and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun, Pearl. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. So, but time is running away, and now all that remains for me is to thank everyone for tonight. So thank you all of you participating for spending the evening with us. And thanks to our sister associations, the Norwegian, Danish, and Icelandic Down Syndrome Association, for sharing this event. And a very warm and special welcome to you, Pearl, Robin, and Emma, for sharing your insights and for the work that you do every day for the global Down syndrome community. And together we can make the world a better place for people with Down syndrome. So, and with these words, we end this webinar, and we wish everyone a pleasant evening and a good night. And yeah, so thank you everyone for tonight.